A 3-year-old girl was priced at 8 million. At 5 years old, the price was 12 million. A 6-year-old boy could even go as high as 18 million. All just because they were all well-trained killing machines. They could skillfully use any lethal technique. All kinds of weapons in their hands were nothing more than everyday tools. From the moment they learned to walk, they had to begin training, being completely corrected in a special rearing environment. No matter how outrageously high the training costs were, they spared no expense. And from a young age, 3 unshakable rules had to be engraved in their minds. The first, they could never disobey the buyer's orders and had to obey under any circumstance. The second, without an order from the buyer, they were strictly forbidden to use force on their own. The third, once the buyer's personal safety was threatened, they could ignore the above 2 rules, break all restrictions, and deal with everything that happened afterward. The boy in front of them was the merchandise that was to be taken away that day. The one picking him up was a fat, big-eared local tycoon. The children would call the buyer their parents, but they felt no affection at all, merely treating the other party as a source of commands. It was like facing a computer. As long as you input a command, it would execute it. How they were used and on whom they were used depended entirely on the parent's mood. As soon as the boy got in the car, the tycoon had him memorize the faces in the photos. Even if the boy noticed a suspicious car tailing them from behind, as long as his parents did not issue the corresponding command, he could only continue executing the command to recognize the faces. Even if that car might have posed a threat, he still could not act on his own, because his parents' orders were absolute. A massive impact caused a horrific car accident, and the boy's father gradually stopped breathing after the collision. He went forward to feel his pulse and confirmed that the man had already lost his heartbeat. At that moment, 2 people got out of that suspicious car, both armed with guns, slowly approaching the wrecked vehicle and carefully searching the surroundings. Suddenly, a little boy tumbled out of the car. He put on a panicked, terrified expression and choked out, "My dad? I think he's not breathing." The 2 gunmen immediately became wary. In the mission intel they had received, there had been no mention of a child at all. They could only move forward with extra caution to check. And that very step triggered the 3rd rule in the boy's mind. When the parent's personal safety is threatened, break the rules and handle all the aftermath. The boy silently grabbed a shard of glass and in an instant drove it into the side of one man's neck, severing a vital area so that the man could not even let out a scream. In one motion he snatched the gun from the man's hand and turned to aim at the second person. The second gunman only had a moment to sense that something was wrong, before a bullet had already pierced his forehead and he dropped dead on the spot. After that, the boy without parents vanished from the scene without a trace. But the priest still held a large number of similar talents in his hands. When he smiled, his mouth was full of diamond and gold teeth, flaunting his status. Even so, he still felt defeated over one missing masterpiece. Because among all the children, that boy was the top-tier elite. Once he lost his parents, he could no longer activate his abilities, which also meant it would be extremely hard to find that most prized subordinate again in the vast sea of people. Perhaps at that time, he was just in some corner, living the most ordinary life of a middle school student. A heavy, sandbag-sized fist suddenly swung out, landing solidly on a teenage boy's chest. After throwing the punch, the other boy still did not forget to mock him. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you have rated that punch, Wang Haiyan-ho? Haiyan-ho quickly forced a smile and hastened to agree. That punch was at least an 8. If you had gone up against a punching machine, you definitely would have earned 180,000 won in prize money. Hearing this answer, the school bully finally withdrew his hand, not continuing to beat him. Just then, a blonde-haired boy suddenly rushed out, pushed the bully aside, and ran straight up to Haiyan-ho, grinning as he said he had also wanted to try. How many points would his own punch have gotten? Before he could finish, the bully raised his hand and slapped the blonde across the face. "He was my toy. No one touched him except me. Understand?" The blonde boy instinctively clenched his fists, brimming with aggression as if he was about to strike back the next second. But instead, he covered the cheek that had been slapped and exclaimed, "That was one hell of a hit. As expected of an overseas student, your physical strength really was different." Only then did the bully cool down. And before leaving, he still did not forget to give a warning. "Watch yourself." The blonde boy's name was Park Si-yeon. Strictly speaking, he was not a perpetrator of violence, but in that school he definitely did not count as a good person either. Wang Haiyan-ho had not wanted to get too close to him, but the other boy had always stepped in to rescue him at critical moments. Over time, the two of them had ended up becoming friends on the surface. After a while, to show his gratitude, Haiyan-ho bought spicy stir-fried rice cakes for Park Si-yeon. The reason he chose that place was because that snack shop was run by his mother, and she had even named the shop after Haiyan-ho. Haiyan-ho's mother was warm and hospitable. As soon as she saw her son bring a friend, she not only served spicy rice cakes but also brought out a big bowl of fish cake stew on the house. In truth, Hyun-ho had not wanted that kind of scum to know that his mom worked there, but the other boy had still found out anyway. Since he knew, Park Si-yeon had felt he could not pretend otherwise, while Hyun-ho had only been thinking, what if he does something out of line? One hand under the table gripped a ballpoint pen, ready at any time. As long as the other had dared make a wrong move toward his mother, he would have stabbed straight into the boy's vital spot without hesitation. Unexpectedly, Park Si-yeon had suddenly stood up, bowed sincerely, and said to the lady boss, "Hello, I'm Hwang Hyun-ho's good friend, Park Si-yeon." When she had heard this, Hyun-ho's mother had beamed with joy, realizing her son had already made such a close friend. Before he left, she had even packed a variety of snacks for Park Si-yeon. Friends should learn to share. Holding the food, Park Si-yeon had been in a great mood. But Hyun-ho's heart had sunk deeper into the shadows. In his eyes, the other boy was not a friend at all, but a dangerous person he knew nothing about and who could have become a threat at any time. But in his mother's eyes it had been different. As long as it was her son's friend, she would treat them like her own child. Hyun-ho had had no choice but to pray that Park Si-yeon would not tell anyone that his mom ran a snack shop, because that was the only place he had wanted to protect, and he had not wanted his mother to be hurt by those people. As soon as Park Si-yeon left, Hyun-ho had no longer been able to suppress his anger and had yelled at his mother. "Hadn't we agreed to pretend we didn't know each other? What if those people followed me here?" In fact, his mother had not thought that far. It had just been the first time she had seen her son bring home a friend, and she had simply felt happy. She had only hoped her son could get along well with his classmates and had had no idea what dangers lay behind that. Looking at his own calloused hands, Hyun-ho had felt waves of guilt. He had silently vowed, no matter what, he would protect his mother. The next day in class, a bowl of snacks was thrown straight into a filthy, dirty rag full of used water. Someone had sneered and said, "Someone actually liked eating this kind of filthy stuff? I heard it was from your mom's shop. Can I get my money back? Or did I have to go find your mom in person to get it back?" Hyun-ho had forced down his rage. He had clearly begged Park Si-yeon, so why had those people still known? The bully had had no intention of stopping. He had simply overturned the bowl of snacks onto Hyun-ho's head, pouring as he threatened, "I plan to go have a nice talk with your mom." The ballpoint pen in Hyun-ho's hand had been squeezed out of shape, endless fury surging in his chest. If he had moved it just 1 centimeter forward, the tip would have pierced the other boy's throat. In that instant, he had remembered what his mother had once said. "I hope you can get along well with your classmates." The ballpoint pen had stopped 1 centimeter away from the bully's neck, forcibly held in place. The bully had frozen for a moment, then had immediately cursed in anger. "What the hell did you think you were doing?" Not long after, Park Si-yeon had walked into the classroom, only to find the atmosphere strangely quiet, and even the police had already arrived on the scene. From the scattered bits of information, he had learned that Hwang Hyun-ho had jumped off the building. Earlier, the bully had beaten him for a full 15 minutes. Several times, Hyun-ho had been beaten into unconsciousness and then punched awake again. Even as he had cried and begged for mercy, the violence had not stopped. His classmates had chosen silence. Not a single person had stood up for him. In the end, what had stopped the violence had been Hyun-ho himself. He had looked out the window, then had jumped without hesitation. Afterward, the school bully was not arrested. On the contrary, he got a few classmates together to coordinate their statements. "I'm counting on you guys to take the fall for this. Korea has a pretty decent law, juvenile crime gets lighter sentences. I've already repeated a year, so I can't enjoy that benefit again. You guys just say it was a joke and that you accidentally pushed him off. Even if there's a civil lawsuit, there are ways to take care of it. As long as no one actually files a real complaint, this incident won't exist. Even if it really blows up, you're all first-time offenders. The punishment won't be that heavy. Of course, I won't have you do this for nothing. 10 million won each, say yes now and you get the money immediately." Looking at the bundles of cash on the floor, they ultimately couldn't resist the temptation and nodded in agreement. Elsewhere, when she learned of this, Hyun-ho's mother wept herself into a wreck, completely losing hope in life and unable to summon any energy for anything. Under the night-shrouded old apartment building, a few boys staggered over. It was those same bullies. They arrived downstairs at Hyun-ho's building and noticed that the elevator had stopped on the 5th floor and hadn't moved for a long time. Helpless, they could only take the stairs. When they reached the 5th floor, they discovered there was a fire extinguisher blocking the elevator doors. No wonder the elevator hadn't responded at all. Which idiot did this? Just as the bully was about to start cursing, a figure in a long coat appeared in the stairwell. That person walked toward them step by step. It was Park Si-yeon. The bully frowned. "What are you doing here?" Park Si-yeon didn't plan on beating around the bush and said directly, "I've got 2 questions for you. First, how did you find out that Hyunho's family runs a spicy rice cake shop?" The bully replied with a cold sneer. "That day I saw you carrying a ton of snacks to hand out to the neighborhood kids. People with no money couldn't possibly afford that stuff. Later I saw Hyunho arguing with someone on the street corner. Use your brain just a little, and it's not hard to put 2 and 2 together. So it was because of me," Park Si-yeon muttered in self-mockery under his breath, then raised his head and asked the second question. "Now for the second one, and you'd better answer properly. Why did you come here today, really?" The bully swung the iron pipe in his hand. "Isn't it obvious? Since Hyunho's mom wants to sue, we're here to have a nice little chat. And since you're here too, that's perfect. I've never liked the look of you. You think I don't know? All that stuff you did was just an act. On the surface it looked like you were bullying Hyunho, but in reality you were helping that guy all along. Today's the day I take care of you as well." Park Si-yeon slowly lifted the fire extinguisher, his tone calm. "Thanks for explaining it all so clearly. But I'd already more or less figured it out. I just wanted to hear you say it yourself." He stepped closer, 1 step at a time, and said softly, "Your metatarsal and ankle bones have already been smashed. That leg of yours should be completely useless now, right?" The 3 rules engraved in the minds of the children in the dead mansion. First rule, the words of the parents are absolute commands. Second rule, without the parents' permission, they are absolutely forbidden to use force. Third rule, when the parents' personal safety is threatened, they may ignore the first 2 and break all rules. Park Si-yeon looked calmly at the person in front of him. "Hyunho's mom once told me, if you're Hyunho's friend, I'll treat you as my own son. So, that means you're threatening my mom. That gives me the right to tear you to pieces." Meanwhile, far away in the mansion at the training base, a nun handed the priest an international call, saying it was from Korea. The caller was the White Tiger Job Center. The priest's expression tightened and he immediately put it on speaker. A low voice came from the other end. "An abnormal situation has appeared in Korea. It looks like we found that person. The lost legend of the Dead Mansion. That person is now in Korea. He was once a member of the Dead Mansion training base. He belonged to a special cultivation, multi-purpose weapon program, codenamed Sean. His current name is Park Si-yeon. Sean, one of the most perfect masterpieces the Dead Mansion had ever produced. His various killing techniques and weapon handling were pushed nearly to the limit, with astonishing talent for assassination and solo combat. A product capable of excelling in any field. He was supposed to be delivered to a top-tier client, a certain Yakuza organization in Japan. But an accident occurred during transport. He was mistakenly sent to Korea, which meant he had no official buyer. In other words, no parents, so he completely went out of control. The priest still brooded over this. I had thought he was already dead. I was ready to give up. I didn't expect the White Tiger Job Center to actually pick up his trail again. He immediately gave an order. "Rachel, go to Korea at once and begin a retrieval mission. If you encounter irresistible circumstances, you may use any and all force." Elsewhere, the bully's father, Kwon Byonyu, came to Hyunho's mother's snack shop and bowed deeply at the entrance. "I'm willing to pay all medical expenses and compensation for emotional distress." Hyunho's mother replied calmly, "This isn't something that can be settled with an apology." Kwon Byonyu was at a loss for words for a moment. He hadn't expected the woman before him to be so difficult to handle. Since talking wouldn't work, then there was no point talking. He turned to leave, tossing out one line. "If you don't intend to settle, then there's no need to waste time. There are many ways to solve a problem. It doesn't have to be by groveling." His real plan was to demolish the entire area and rebuild it into a multifunctional commercial street. After getting in the car, he instructed the driver, "Let's go check on that useless brat first." Soon after, he arrived at Sanrim Hospital. Joseph lay motionless on the bed. Kwon Byonyu told the nurse to step out first. He wanted to talk to his son alone. As soon as the door closed, a loud slap landed on Joseph's face. "You know what makes me the angriest? It's not that you bullied a few kids, and it's not that you drove someone to jump off a building. It's that you actually took a weapon and went to someone else's home to stir up trouble yourself. Where's your brain? When are you going to learn to use adult methods to solve problems?" Meanwhile, Kwon Byonyu secretary had brought a few men to find Park Si-yeon. They worked cleanly and efficiently, wearing gloves, leaving no traces that could be directly tracked back. "You're pretty good in a fight," the secretary said unhurriedly, looking at the badly beaten yet still composed Park Si-yeon. "Going up against 4 kids your age at once and not getting overwhelmed. But to adults, that level is nothing. Because of what you did, our young master was humiliated. You have to pay the price. That's how adults handle things. As the sun set and the people dispersed, only then did Park Se-yeon slowly get up from the ground, casually snapping his dislocated arm back into place with a look of disdain. How boring. Adults can't even tell the difference between a dislocation and a fracture? Compared to Aunt Rachel's training, this doesn't even come close. He calculated silently in his heart. The real trouble is probably just beginning. Without an order, I can't use my full abilities. I need to think of a way to get myself a new identity. Just as he frowned and thought, a familiar figure appeared on the street, Hyunho's mother. She was surprised to see the child covered in dirt and his clothes in tatters, and couldn't help asking, "How did you get so filthy? What happened?" She brought Park Se-yeon back to the shop and, as usual, set out hot food. "Eat more," she said gently. At those words, Park Se-yeon's body trembled slightly, then he lowered his head and began to wolf it down. "Slow down, drink some water, or you'll make yourself sick." Almost by reflex, Park Se-yeon gulped the drink down in one go. If she had told him again to drink a bit more, he might really have kept drinking until his stomach burst. After the meal, Park Se-yeon asked about how Hyunho was doing. A hint of dimness flashed in Hyunho's mother's eyes, and her voice carried exhaustion. The surgery went relatively well for Hyunho. Now it all depends on his recovery. Even though it looks difficult right now, I still believe he'll get better. It's just, I don't understand why my son had to go through something like this. Seeing him like that, and not being able to help at all, it really breaks my heart. What gives them the right to bully people like this? Those bastards. Sometimes I really want to crush them like this rice ball. Park Se-yeon quietly listened to the end without interrupting. When she finally came back to herself, she realized that the blonde kid had already slipped out of the shop without a sound. As night fell, the Bio-nu group building was brightly lit. Kwon Bio-nu and the company staff were holding a quarterly celebration banquet, a celebration of their record-breaking performance over the past 9 months. Suddenly, one of the bartender's movements became slightly odd. The crisp sound of a bottle shattering rang out, stirring up a commotion. Security immediately stepped forward to intervene. The situation spun out of control in an instant, and the banquet hall plunged into chaos. Someone shouted, "Turn the lights on, now!" By the time the lights came back on, several people were already lying on the floor, and that blonde-haired kid was nowhere to be seen. Standing on high ground, Gwen Bionu narrowed his eyes and looked down at the turmoil below. That blonde little brat? While everyone was panicking, the real killing intent was quietly lurking beneath the dining tables. For the children trained in the Dead Mansion, the first principle was always the same. The words of the parents are absolute. Behind Park Se-yeon, a gloved figure slowly stood up. It was Kwon Bio-nu's secretary. His tone was icy. "I remember breaking your arm once. Today I'll teach you what it really means to cripple an arm." Blood slowly slid down his cheek as Park Se-yeon lifted his head and looked straight up at Kwon Bio-nu. The man's expression was dark as he glared down at this insolent brat. Raising both hands, Park Se-yeon said coolly, "If you were really a professional, I should already be dead, not just walking away with a few scratches." Kwon Bio-nu's pupils shrank. There was a faint hint of a fellow professional in this kid's tone. "Don't tell me you were trained by some organization?" Park Se-yeon replied lightly, "If I have to say which organization I belong to, I guess it's Hyunho Snack Shop." Kwon Bio-nu was stunned. "That shabby, greasy hole-in-the-wall snack shop? That woman hired you to kill me?" Park Se-yeon shook his head. "No. What she wants is for me to tear you apart." This isn't simple revenge or punishment. It's about obeying the first principle. Kwon Bio-nu said coldly, "Looks like I still wasn't ruthless enough. I should have taken care of that woman at the time as well. If you want to end things for good, you kill everyone related to it." Park Se-yeon narrowed his eyes. "Why would you say something so unnecessary?" Third principle, when the parent's personal safety is threatened, break all rules and handle everything that follows. Like father, like son. The two of you are the same, nothing but trash that needs to be disposed of. Meanwhile, in a ward at Sanrim Hospital, a nurse walked in, saying she was there to change Joseph's painkillers. While adjusting the drip, she chatted idly. "School violence has been pretty serious lately. Whoever beat you up this badly must be impressive, huh? I really haven't seen a student this severely injured before. By the way, those 3 main principles you mentioned to your father during the day, who told you about them?" Joseph's heart lurched. he noticed that the color of the fluid in the foreline didn't look quite right. But the nurse smiled and said, "Don't panic. It's only half a dose. It won't kill you. Answer my question. Where did you hear those 3 rules? Don't pretend you don't know. I heard every word you said earlier today, loud and clear. Let me put it another way. Do you know the name Sean? Dead Mansion, Rachel. Specialty, disguise and infiltration." Not long after, in the bio-new group hall that had already been slaughtered clean, Rachel stepped over bloodstains and broken glass, picked up the phone, and reported to the priest. Sean has used his abilities. She described everything she had seen at the scene, point by point. The priest was incredulous. By rights, this should be impossible. In the history of the Dead Mansion, no child has ever managed this much under the constraints of the 3 rules. The rules are absolute. They are the final safety lock that controls their behavior. If, with the rules still in effect, he can act like this, then this is no simple accident. If word gets out that weapons produced by the Dead Mansion might ignore control, our reputation will suffer an unprecedented blow. He drew a deep breath and changed the plan. From now on, we completely revise the operation policy. The top priority is, confirm Sean. Investigate whether he has truly broken free of control, and whether he was really the one behind this incident. If you encounter obstacles in Korea, you may seek support from the White Tiger Job Center. The next day, at Yanha Middle School, a new female teacher carefully pushed open the classroom door. It was Rachel in disguise. After a preliminary investigation, she had confirmed that Sean was at this school. She didn't understand why the child was living here under such an identity. As his former instructor, Rachel felt both conflicted and excited, urgently wanting to know what Sean had gone through after leaving the Dead Mansion. In her memory, Sean was always that child who executed training perfectly, handled every weapon with ease, and was both elegant and cold. But the boy before her, sloppy posture when standing, lounging when sitting, a crude expression, and a mouth full of swearing, looked more like a good-for-nothing street punk. Is this really Sean, all grown up? For a moment, Rachel wondered if she had mistaken someone else for him. The boy was noisy and rowdy, loud enough to wake the school bully in the back row, and the 2 of them started arguing on the spot. Rachel thought he would instinctively fight back, striking first to test the other's strength, just like when he was young. But in less than 2.5 minutes, he was beaten to the ground by the bully, with no ability to fight back at all. Rachel could only proceed with the lesson as planned. She knew clearly, he might be deliberately hiding his strength, or he might still be bound by the 3 rules and thus reluctant to reveal himself for now. She needed more information to confirm her suspicions. Rachel sharply noticed that, compared with the other students, Park Se-yeon's eyes were always too clear, like a blade that could be drawn at any moment. Children of the Dead Mansion program needed not only strong bodies, but also sharp minds. Even if they could pretend to be useless trash, it was hard to completely hide the intelligent side. In front of the mirror in the girls' restroom, Rachel adjusted her wig. Sean couldn't possibly be like this. He's way too different from how he used to be. But that face, those little details, they're all so familiar. Then what's with that stupid drawing? Is that idiot really Sean? The plan has changed. For now I won't think about the 3 principles. First I need to confirm whether he really is Sean. After school, Rachel, disguised as a schoolgirl, quietly followed behind Park Se-yeon. Someone called his name from behind, and when he turned around, it was Hyun-ho's mother. Carrying a large load of groceries, she smiled and asked, "Se-yeon, could you help me carry these?" Without even thinking, Park Se-yeon took them from her. As thanks, she invited him back to the shop to have something to eat. As soon as he stepped into Hyun-ho's snack shop, Park Se-yeon began to wolf down the food like he hadn't eaten in ages. Hiding off to the side, Rachel only furrowed her brows deeper and deeper. She suddenly remembered that Joseph had said he'd beaten an old woman's son into intensive care. But if she already has a son, then what's her relationship with Park Se-yeon? The more Rachel watched, the more awkward she felt. This crude little punk in front of her didn't match the Sean in her memory at all. Just as she was thinking that, she was suddenly choked by the spiciness of the Odin broth. Hyun-ho's mother immediately handed her a glass of water. As her eyes teared up from the heat, a buried memory broke through the surface. Sean absolutely doesn't eat spicy food. He hates anything spicy. Whenever there was something spicy during training, he would grip my hand in a death clinch. But the Park Se-yeon before her was wolfing down spicy tteokbokki without hesitation, even giving the lady boss a thumbs up. This is really good. Only then did Rachel notice. The hand Park Se-yeon had hidden behind his back was bulging with veins, clenched into a tight fist. He had actually been enduring the spiciness the whole time. At that moment, a sudden realization struck Rachel. Thinking back to the walk earlier, when the old woman said, "Could you help me carry these?" Park Se-yeon immediately stepped forward to help. When she said, "Come by the shop and eat something before you go home," he agreed without a moment's hesitation. From just now until this moment, the boy had been following every word the old woman said, doing everything she asked. He's following her orders. Rachel's reasoning quickly snapped into place. At those murder scenes, such high-quality assassinations would have been impossible without someone giving orders. If someone had ordered Sean to destroy the Bionu group, then it all made sense. And the only person with a motive was this old woman. Which meant Sean had not shaken off the 3 rules. He had simply come to regard the shop owner as his parent. In that case, everything makes sense. Rachel decided to use the simplest method to verify her hypothesis. Seeing the scene before her, Rachel was overjoyed. Her guess had been completely correct. At sunset, the two of them walked to a quiet, sparsely populated street corner. The dead mansion's third principle surfaced once more. When the parent's personal safety is threatened, a good child will break the rules and handle everything that follows. Park Si-yeon suddenly grabbed the hand reaching toward him from behind. "Aunt Rachel, are you planning to follow me all day?" Having been found out, Rachel instead showed a charming smile. "So it really is you, Sean. Long time no see, have you been well? But I'm very curious, why do you obey that old woman as if you were taking orders from your parents?" Strictly speaking, the owner of some shabby little snack shop couldn't possibly be a client of the dead mansion. But whatever the reason. "My dear child, it's time to go home. There are still so many clients waiting for you. Go back to that place?" Fragmented memories flashed through Park Si-yeon's mind. Endless training, the stench of blood filling every room. Waking up every day with his hands covered in fresh blood. The images flickered past and he froze. What was that just now? Were those really my memories? Rachel's expression turned cold. "Looks like you're not planning to come back with me quietly." At that moment, Sean fled at high speed, his heart full of doubt and turmoil. I didn't expect the one they sent to be Aunt Rachel. And that woman who keeps appearing in the fragments of my memories, who on earth is she? Near nightfall, at the dead mansion estate, the priest, suppressing his anger, demanded over the phone, "How did you let Sean get away?" The reply was cautious. "I got careless for a moment and he slipped through. But the good news is we've obtained some key information. There's an old woman who can trigger the 3 rules. From what we've observed so far, Sean seems to regard this woman as his guardian. Judging from the situation at the scene, the old woman probably isn't intentionally exploiting the rules. It looks more like she accidentally set the mechanism off. We still need further investigation to determine the exact reason. We can only first confirm her identity, then decide our next move. But one thing is certain, no matter what, we must, at all costs, bring Sean back to the dead mansion. Even if, in the end, we're forced to kill him with our own hands." They had to go this far because the priest had only one goal: to make Sean return to the dead mansion. Now, Sean already regarded Hwang Hyun-ho's mother as his new guardian. As long as this guardian verbally renounced all ownership of Sean, the dead mansion would once again be able to fully control this most perfect weapon. Not long after, Rachel stood in front of Hyun-ho's mother. Her tone sounded polite, but every word pressed forward. In fact, Si-yeon has never eaten spicy food, and during his growing years, he really shouldn't be eating junk like this. I know he listens to you very well. But as a parent, what you most want isn't to let him do whatever he wants, but to protect your child from the bottom of your heart. So, if Si-yeon comes here again, I hope you can personally tell him, "Don't come anymore. Go back to your original home." As soon as she finished, Hyun-ho's mother shook her head firmly. "He says you're his biological parents, but have you ever really looked at his face? Have you noticed how filthy and ragged his clothes are every day? Do you know if he's happy at school? Whether anyone is bullying him? He's always dirty from head to toe, and when I asked, he just laughs and says he fell." At first I also thought boys just grow up like that. That's what Hyun-ho always told me too. But if you think just a little, you'll know they're lying, only so their mother won't worry. I've long since come to see Si-yeon as my own son. I don't want to see him walk the same path as Hyun-ho. So, whenever I have time, I drop by to check on him. What Si-yeon needs now isn't a guardian in name, but real parents who will truly look after him. Since you're so busy and always running around out of town, then let me be the one to take care of him, alright? I'm sorry, but I can't agree to what you're asking. These words made Rachel grit her teeth in anger, yet she was helpless. After leaving the snack shop, she immediately called the priest. Plan A has failed. This old woman's obsession with ownership is far stronger than we anticipated. The priest fell silent for a moment on the other end, then said coldly, "I'd hoped to settle this quietly. Since that's how it is, initiate Plan B. But try not to cause too much of a stir." Plan B was the dead mansion's coldest, yet most effective rule. If you want to bring a good child back to the dead mansion, there is always only one easiest way. When the parent they recognize dies, the child will automatically return to the Deadpool Tower, and ownership will fall back into its hands. A few days later, in a large department store, Rachel tailed Hyunho's mother all the way from the snack shop, patiently waiting for the right moment. The fire sprinkler system was being triggered again and again, with screams and chaos rising one after another. Amid the misting water and the surging crowd, just as Hyunho's mother turned a corner, before she had time to react, a silenced pistol was already aimed at the back of her head. A crisp impact rang down the corridor, but it wasn't a gunshot. The bullet was violently deflected. What stood in front of her was a frying pan held high. The one gripping the handle was Sean, who had all this time been disguised as an ordinary student. Seeing his face, Rachel not only was not surprised, but instead showed an almost fanatical smile. "So it really is you, my favorite child." Sean glanced at the frying pan in his hand, looking stunned himself. "I only tried it because I saw someone do this in a game and wanted to see if it could really block bullets. I didn't think it would actually work." And from that moment on, the third rule was fully triggered. When the parent's personal safety is threatened, you may ignore the first two rules, break all restrictions, and handle everything that follows. Rachel, however, didn't care at all whether the rules had been activated. She had only one objective in her eyes: to eliminate that old woman as quickly as possible and completely free you, this child, from her hands. Didn't I tell you before? You need to use your brain when you fight. Just think of this as the final lesson I owe you. This battle will make you even more perfect. Don't forget what your ultimate purpose is. After hearing this, Sean's expression darkened slightly. Looks like I'll have to end this fight quickly. Rachel grew even more excited. "As long as we get rid of that old woman, you'll naturally come back to us. After all, you're a product of the dead mansion." Those words made Sean's expression turn completely cold. "What did you just say? A product?" "Then why do you want to send me back to a place that only treats me as an object?" "If I'm just an object, then you're nothing more than a handy tool." On the other side, Hyunho's mother was so frightened by the sudden chaos that she didn't know what to do. She looked around nervously, when suddenly she heard a little boy behind her sobbing so hard he could barely breathe. "Mom, where are you? I can't find you." Almost by instinct, she turned around and hurried forward to comfort him. While crying, the boy said, "There were so many people just now, I got separated from my mom. Auntie, can you help me?" Of course she never suspected it was a trap. She had no idea that, in the boy's hand, there was a cold, hidden blade. However, at that very moment, Sean came sprinting in from the other side. The motion of the boy's stabbing arm was forcibly stopped. He, too, recognized Chown's face. This was one of the most infamous monsters ever produced by the Dead Mansion. In front of someone like that, any reckless move meant there was no chance of walking away in one piece today. All the more so because, judging from the intel coming from the battlefield, Aunt Rachel's side had probably already lost the ability to continue operating. Sean crouched down slightly, bringing his eyes level with the boys, and spoke in an apparently gentle tone. "Do you remember your family's phone number? I can help you find your mom." On the surface, the boy put on a panicked act, pretending to remember nothing, while in his heart he was rapidly calculating how to use this kind-hearted person to draw Sean away and then find another chance to strike. Sean had no intention of giving him any room at all. He suddenly scooped the child up, lowered his voice, and whispered a cold warning in his ear. "Don't move. If you so much as try something weird, you'll die a horrible death. If you stop here and now, I can pretend nothing happened. But don't entertain any other ideas. You should have contact info for the person above you. Give me the number. I'll have a nice talk with him." The boy kept playing dumb, stammering non-answers. In the next second, he suddenly reached behind his back again, trying to draw the blade he hadn't managed to stab with earlier. But this time, before he could complete the motion, a precise knife-hand strike landed at the back of his neck. His small body went limp and he slipped into unconsciousness. Before long, firefighters and police arrived one after another. The mall was urgently sealed off and they began clearing the scene. Late at night, in the dead mansion, the ringing of the phone cut through the silence. The priest groggily dragged himself out of bed, ready to curse out whoever dared disturb his sleep. But the moment he picked up, he snapped fully awake. It was Sean. The call was coming from the number that should only have been used on Rachel's side. That meant Rachel's mission had failed. Is Rachel and the boy dead? Sean answered unhurriedly. Your reaction is kind of weird. Both of them are still alive. But you need to understand, no matter how many people you send, the result will be the same. Don't waste your manpower. If you really can't let it go, you can come yourself. The priest paused for a moment, then asked quietly, You're not planning to run? You mean to stand and fight the dead mansion head-on? Sean said, It won't play out the way you think. According to the third rule, as long as my parents' personal safety is threatened, I have to deal with all the aftermath. So I have no reason to run away. I'll simply treat the dead mansion itself as a threat and respond accordingly. As soon as he finished, it was as if something struck the priest. He dropped to his knees with a thud, then let out a mad, satisfied laugh. Exactly as I expected. Even now, you're still so loyal to the 3 rules. You really are my favorite, most perfect child. Give Eugene back to me, and I won't touch that old woman. There was a brief silence on the other end. In the end, Sean gave his answer. Come pick him up at the designated location in an hour. Then he hung up. The priest pressed his hands together and whispered a prayer into the darkness. I love you so much. You're the child I cherish most. I'll do everything I can to bring you home. Wait for me. The children of the dead mansion were, in essence, merchandise belonging to the buyers, that is, to the parents. When the parent died, the ownership of that merchandise automatically reverted to the dead mansion, and it would then be resold to the next buyer. Every time a parent died, the cycle would repeat. Though each resale generated profit, it also led to a problem. If a certain child was resold multiple times and each parent died a violent death in the end, the dead mansion's credibility would be severely damaged. And that child would be regarded as a failure who couldn't protect the buyer, ultimately sealed away, stripped of all use value. The child before him had already changed hands 4 times. 4 times, and he still hadn't been able to keep his parents alive. The priest was furious about this. A child who fails to protect his parents 4 times in a row. That's a disgrace the dead mansion has never seen since its founding. If this happens again, there's only one way to deal with it. Kill him and bury him. To avoid being treated as useless garbage, these children would risk their lives to prove they were indispensable. The priest gave Eugene one last chance. Go to Korea and help Rachel bring Sean back. If you can't do it, that proves you're worthless trash. And there's only one way to deal with trash: elimination. If you don't want to be disposed of, prove your worth. But in reality, Eugene had barely arrived in Korea before Sean knocked him out and took him away. When he woke up, he found his weapons had been thrown away to who knew where. Sean pushed a huge plate of spicy stir-fried rice cakes in front of him. We may be on opposing sides now, but we're both from the same place. I don't want to be too harsh on a kid like you. Eugene muttered disparagingly. Who'd want to eat this stuff? The next second, the plate was licked clean. Sean grinned. Pretty good, right? He even thoughtfully packed up 2 more servings. Eugene stayed stubborn. It's just okay. But judging from the way he'd been wolfing it down, it was anything but reluctant. Just then, footsteps sounded on the stairs. Rachel came down, her face full of anger and disappointment. Even so, she was prepared to take Eugene back, since that was the priest's order. As they were leaving, Sean handed them the 2 packaged takeouts. It's a long way. You'll get hungry on the road. Rachel said flatly, You're way too relaxed, Sean. This isn't the style the dead mansion taught you. I haven't given up on you yet. You'd better pull yourself together. With that, she left with Eugene, scolding him in a cold voice as they went. If you'd just taken care of that old woman earlier, things never would have turned out like this. A kid as useless as you should have been scrapped long ago, though you sure enjoyed the food. Sean stood there in a flight daze, then suddenly turned and called after them. Hey, do you still want more tteokbokki? Eugene froze, and in the next second tears burst from his eyes as he practically shouted, It was delicious, I want more. Sean shrugged. Then don't go back. Come to Heinho's snack shop. Of course, it wasn't that simple. Just earlier on the stairs, Rachel had made it perfectly clear to Eugene. If you go back, you'll be scrapped. This is your last chance. Prove you're worth something. So they set up one last trap. On the surface, they'd accept Sean's invitation and return to the old woman's side. But inside they had already agreed. If we don't kill her, then you die. Looking at Sean, who was inviting him to come back, Eugene silently repeated in his heart, If I fail this time, there really won't be a second chance. Sean noticed nothing strange about him at all and planned to take him back to Heinho's mother's home. Seeing Sean like this, Rachel felt sure he already regarded himself as a threat, which meant the third rule was still in effect. Then she put on a show of reluctance. Didn't we agree you'd trade Eugene back? Sean replied, the kid himself said he wanted to. Since he's willing, I'll take him. Rachel then lowered her head and whispered to Eugene, go on. I've paved the road for you. Go kill the old woman and bring Sean back. You have no choice. Right after, Rachel mentioned that if the negotiations failed, the dead mansion would turn its sights back on the old woman. You know that rule, don't you? But Sean was utterly unconcerned. Even if it comes to that, I'll tear to pieces whoever they send. Eugene looked at Sean beside him and, for some reason, felt a growing sense of admiration. Before long, they arrived at Hyunho's mother's home. She set a big table of dishes before the two of them. You must be exhausted today. Eat up. What a coincidence, your mom and his mom are friends, she added with a laugh. Sean didn't know how to explain. After all, those two moms were in fact one and the same person. Eugene bowed his head to say grace over the food, but in his heart he was calculating when would be the best time to strike. At the table they chatted about parents, school, and the future, while Sean grew more and more silent as he ate. If she hadn't kept inviting him, he wouldn't even have had the courage to step into this house. This ordinary home, the clean living room, the freshly washed but still damp sneakers, and the door labeled with the name, Hwang Hyun-ho. Can I take a look inside? Sean asked carefully. Hyun-ho's mother froze for a moment, then nodded. Go ahead. The moment the door opened, it was as if he'd been struck by something both gentle and brutal. The room was simple, a cheap desk, an old school bag, a calendar plastered with cram school flyers. A room so ordinary it couldn't be more ordinary, yet it was the kind of scene he'd only ever seen in movies since he was a child. So this is what a normal kid's room looks like. He suddenly realized he had never, in his life, wanted a home this badly. He forced himself to picture it. If they hadn't pushed Hyun-ho to that step, right now he'd probably be here doing homework, doing practice questions, complaining about how terrible the school lunches were. At that time, I really shouldn't have just stood there as a cold bystander. On the other side, after eating and drinking his fill, Eugene bowed to thank Hyun-ho's mom. Looking around, he noticed Sean was still dazing off in the room. Now was the best chance. Lowering his voice, he asked, is there anyone else at home? As he spoke, his hand quietly reached behind his back, feeling for the gun he'd hidden earlier. Not wanting to speak the word death, Hyun-ho's mom forced a smile and said, as for Hyun-ho's dad, I guess heaven needed him too much, so I had no choice but to let him go on ahead. In other words, he's become part of another family. Eugene lowered his eyes, but his tone was as cold as metal. And your son? He probably can't belong to any family at all either. A useless failure is just dead weight in any household. If you can't meet other people's expectations, can't prove your worth, and only drain your family's resources, then you're just trash that should be discarded, something that has no right to stay. That's the lesson I've learned. Those words left Hyun-ho's mom completely stunned. How can you see family like that? She couldn't help raising her voice. That's not what a family is. Just as she was about to say more, Sean suddenly came out of the room, slung an arm around Eugene, and started joking and roughhousing with him. Seeing them play together, she ultimately swallowed her words and said nothing more. Late at night, under the dim moonlight, Sean was sleeping deeply, even snoring a little. Meanwhile, Eugene lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling in a daze. He was waiting for the perfect moment when the mother would be alone. Quietly, he got up and walked toward the room with light seeping through the door crack. Pushing it open, he saw Hyun-ho's mom asleep at her son's desk. Eugene remembered what he'd said during the day, a useless child is trash. Yet this woman before him had said, even if he's useless, he's still my child. She treated a useless child as family, and could be this gentle even to someone she'd only just met. That logic was a world apart from the priests. So what is a real family actually like? No matter how confused he was inside, he still remembered his mission, to prove his worth. He slowly raised the gun, only to realize his hands were shaking uncontrollably. At that moment, the door closed softly. A familiar voice came from behind him. Hey, brat, is this your final choice? If it is, you could have just told me up front. I can let you go, or end you with my own hands. Eugene spun around, aiming the pistol at Sean and gritting his teeth in threat. Stay out of this. I'm just following orders. Sean, however, wasn't flustered at all and spoke calmly. I knew from the start you were here to assassinate Hyun-ho's mom. I took the bullets out long ago. That gun belongs to Rachel. 15 9mm rounds, total weight 112.5 grams. And right now, the magazine's completely empty. As an assassin, you didn't even notice whether your magazine was full. You're not professional at all. Eugene's face twisted with rage, fury blazing as he yanked out a short blade from behind his back and thrust it forward. Sean grabbed his arm in a backhand move and slammed Eugene against the doorframe. In the next second, the doorknob turned, and Sean used the motion to twist his body and roll into the room. The lighting inside was dim. Hyunho's mom was fast asleep. Sean froze where he stood, quickly raising both hands in a placating gesture. Calm down first. Don't wake her up. If you've got something to say, we'll talk outside. Eugene turned his head and spotted the target at arm's length. The old woman was right by the bed. It was the perfect chance. Sean yanked hard on Eugene's collar, lowering his voice but filled with anger. I said I don't want to make a sound and wake her up. You can't beat me, and you can't kill her. You strike too directly, your next move is obvious at a glance. But even this small commotion still woke Hyunho's mom. The moment she opened her eyes, what she saw was Sean pinning down a child. Why are you bullying your little brother? She scolded sternly. How old are you, and how old is he? Eugene seized that instant and was about to make another move. Sean, like he had a built-in radar, noticed at once. He turned his body slightly and warned in a low voice. If you dare move, you'll die an ugly death. The next second, he switched to a cheerful grin and explained to Hyunho's mom. We were just playing around, not arguing and definitely not fighting. Under this oppressive pressure, Eugene sobered up completely. He knew very well, no matter how he trained for the next 10 years, as long as Sean was around, he wouldn't even be able to touch a single strand of her hair. If he wanted to kill this old lady, he'd have to wait until Sean wasn't present or couldn't make it in time. Hyunho's mom squatted down and gently said to Eugene, don't mess around with your big brother. You're all one family. Family? Eugene couldn't understand at all. How does an outsider like me suddenly become family? Hyunho's mom smiled and calmly explained. We eat under the same roof, we sleep in the same house. Isn't that what makes a family? Just then, the doorbell pierced the stillness of the night. All three of them froze. Dawn hadn't even broken yet. Who could it be? Hyunho's mom hurried to open the door. Outside stood an unfamiliar female high schooler, who bowed politely. I'm really sorry to disturb you so early. I'm Eugene's older sister, Marie. I've come to take my little brother home. Thank you very much for taking him in the middle of the night. From behind, Sean raised an eyebrow. Seriously? Eugene has a sister? Didn't expect it to be you. What wind blew you here? Marie smiled faintly. I'm only here to take my brother back and to check whether that lady is safe and sound. That's what I agreed on with the father. Rachel sending you to bring Eugene here was her personal decision. It doesn't represent the father. Sean looked at her, his tone turning cold. Since you're calling this a friendly meeting, shouldn't you put the knife away first? This is your idea of sincerity. Marie paused, a little surprised. You even saw that. If you'd calmly accept a solid cooperation, those scenes in your head wouldn't happen. Before she finished speaking, Eugene rushed out from inside, throwing himself headfirst into Marie's arms. On the surface they were a close brother and sister, but behind the scenes they were cold and ruthless. Marie lowered her voice. The father is very disappointed in you. A failed mission means you're a useless burden. Once we're back, you'll be disposed of immediately. Sean watched Eugene and vaguely sensed the unwillingness in his eyes. But reality was harsh. Hyunho's mom was the guardian Sean had chosen, the one he had to protect. Eugene, however, rejected Marie's method entirely. He had his own plan. First blend into this family, earn their trust bit by bit, and then slowly get close to the target. Directly stabbing the old lady to death isn't that simple, because that person is there. He gritted his teeth and forced out the name. Dead Mansion Sean. The most perfect work to date. Killing the old lady under someone like that. How could it be easy? Even though he looks ugly and stupid, like some ferocious monkey. I faced him head on. He's definitely not someone you can deal with easily. Marie reluctantly admitted that her own recklessness had basically wrecked Eugene's setup. But don't worry too much. The new operation has already begun. We're pulling out for now. Eugene could only grit his teeth and leave with her, heart full of disappointment and conflicting emotions. Yet just a few steps out the door, a familiar voice called from behind. Come again next time, and I'll make you an even bigger dinner. Eugene snapped his head around, staring at the old lady who had just called him family. His pupils dilated slightly, but he couldn't get a single word out. He turned away and left, his back stiff, but the corner of his mouth curling up in the faintest hint of a smile. Inside the house, Hyunho's mom reminded Sean, next time, remember to bring him back with you. I need to show off my cooking properly. Sean nodded. I'll bring him back. The next day, at Yanha Middle School, the principal spoke to Hyunho's mom with a guilty look on his face. I've already submitted this case of school violence to the School Violence Committee. The offending students will be disciplined. It's a bit late, but their parents have agreed to cover all medical expenses, and all involved students will be suspended. Here's the list. You can take a look. Flipping to the first page, Hyunho's mom suddenly froze. Why is this person on here? The first offender listed was none other than Sean, his photo printed clearly. At the same time, at the Dead Mansion estate, the father berated Rachel. What on earth happened? Rachel's expression didn't change. The operation failed, pure and simple. There are no excuses. I ordered Eugene to kill that old lady, and he couldn't complete a single command. In Dead Mansion, a tool that cannot execute orders properly should be disposed of as early as possible. But the father's face hardened. That's not the answer I want. The instructions I gave were to bring Eugene back, and then to leave them alone. You, on the other hand, added your own spin and ordered Eugene to assassinate the old lady. Are you now incapable of obeying me completely? His tone grew steadily colder. What I value most is a promise. Before God, there is only faith and trust. Nothing else can be mixed in. Otherwise it violates the very foundation of the doctrine of law. Any other form is heresy. Those children lacked faith to begin with. That's why we created the 3 great laws, to control and restrain them. Think about it another way. If they broke free of those restraints and acted however they pleased, what do you think would happen? Orders, trust, commitment. These are the absolute rules of Dead Mansion. There's no rush to bring Sean back. There are many ways to do it. We don't necessarily have to touch that old lady. Marie has already started moving. All you need to do is sit back and watch. The next day, Sean went back to school as usual. All his classmates now looked at him with strange eyes. He asked his desk mate about it, but the boy just mumbled vaguely, and no one was willing to talk to him. Only the school bully in the back dared come up to speak. Look at this. He handed over his phone. On the screen was a photo. Sean had someone pinned under his arm, and that face had been edited into Joseph's. The photo was taken the day he was horsing around with Hyunho, only the original had been crudely altered. This Photoshop job is ridiculously bad. Sean was speechless and could only ask, where did this photo come from? The gang of punks behind him didn't dare tell the truth, chills running down their backs. They bobbed their heads and bent over fawningly. We were wrong before, we shouldn't have bullied you like that. Even someone like Joseph got beaten into a dog and turned into your lackey, everyone in school knows now. You can see how pathetic he is just from the photo. Some people are saying you've got connections with the mob. We've always thought you weren't ordinary. And there's an even crazier rumor. Joseph tried to kill Wang Hyunho on your orders. You're seriously powerful. Sean was completely dumbfounded. Hold up, what kind of nonsense is this? When did I ever do anything like that? But no matter how he tried to explain, not a single person was willing to believe him. They only trusted the rumors going wild in the group chats. Just then, a big guy squeezed up to his desk. You're seriously too cool. His deskmate whispered a protest. This is my seat. The big guy's face darkened immediately. You want to become the second Wang Hyunho? Before he could finish the threat, Sean smoothly grabbed his wrist. Sean grinned, trying to smooth things over. Come on, let's talk outside. I really want to keep a low profile. The other students looked at him like he was the plague and hurried to get far away. Sean was completely confused. Who on earth is stirring things up from behind the scenes? Once they were out of the classroom, the 3 punks, now acting like lackeys, spilled everything in one breath. Early this morning, someone suddenly joined the school group chat, dropped a few photos and a couple of vicious lines, then immediately left. After that, the whole mess just exploded out of control. Sean frowned. Is this Dead Mansion's little trick? What exactly are they trying to accomplish by doing this? He stood up and said calmly, all I want is to go to school quietly and graduate like everyone else. I have zero interest in getting tangled up in childish pranks like this. The ones I really need to deal with aren't these kids, but the adults, those who are looking far beyond all this. So this thing absolutely cannot spread any further. Brothers, don't let it escalate. The 3 of them just stood there in a daze. He'd actually called them brothers. They immediately nodded and bowed. Whatever you say, we'll do it. Just give the word. Not far away, Hyunho's mom saw the whole scene. She could hardly believe it as she recalled the photo she'd seen at the principal's office the day before. The principal had said, this kind of thing doesn't happen by accident. It might be Park Si-yeon egging them on. This kid doesn't seem to have ever received proper family education. We can't reach his parents, his personality is unstable and extreme. Speaking from experience, kids like him are the ones most likely to go astray. You shouldn't trust him too much. She had wanted to believe that Sean and Hyunho were good friends. But now, the photo, the rumors, and what she saw with her own eyes were slowly pushing her trust to the breaking point. At that moment, Sean just wanted to calm the rumor storm as fast as possible. He realized that his offhand tough guy act was being taken at full face value by all his classmates. I didn't expect them to be this naive. He walked to the mouth of an alley and suddenly stopped. He had already noticed the silhouette hiding in the shadows of the alley. That person thought they were well concealed, but he recognized them at a glance. It was Marie. Sean untied his hairband and let his hair down, his tone indifferent. What exactly are you trying to do? Why are you making this so complicated? Marie, copying his gesture, tied her hair up. You don't like it? The one I really want to deal with isn't Park Si-yeon with his hair tied up, but Sean with his hair down. Well, how does it feel to be the #1 school delinquent? Your classmates' cold stares, the betrayal and contempt in their eyes, don't you enjoy it at all? Only then did Sean fully understand. This was all Marie's handiwork. Such laughably bad Photoshop is enough to fool ordinary people. He was about to complain when the entire alley suddenly shook. A bullet grazed the wall as it flew by. Sean's pupils contracted. How can you just fire a gun like that? Weren't you supposed to take me back? But Marie replied coolly, precisely because you're Sean, I'm giving you the minimum level of expectation and respect. Being dead is more valuable than being completely discarded. Isn't that so? She put down the backpack on her shoulder and stepped closer and closer to Sean, who was hiding behind the corner. When she reached the corner, Sean clenched his fists and demanded, "This is all you've got? Has Dead Mansion already run out of successors? Did you really think a trick on this level could affect me?" But Marie gave a scornful laugh. "Did you really think you've already won? Everything is running exactly along the track I predicted." Just then, a familiar angry shout came from the mouth of the alley. "Park Si-yeon, what are you doing? Do you know what you're doing right now? How can you treat a female student like this? How could you turn into someone like this? You're my son Hyunho's friend." I really didn't want to believe it. Could it be that the one who hurt Hyunho really was you? Sean immediately tried to explain. It's not what it looks like. Before he could finish, Marie had already run crying into Hyunho's mom's arms, putting on a show of weakness and helplessness. Sean had just started to move forward when a furious shout froze him in place. "Stand right there. Don't come any closer." The instant he received the order, Sean's whole body locked up where he stood. He couldn't take a single step. Marie spoke through sobs. "After we took Eugene back that day, we found his whole body covered in injuries. I didn't want to say this, but I was forced into a corner and had to ask the truth. It was all Park Si-yeon's doing." In Hyunho's mom's mind, images from that night flashed past. "We were just playing around, we weren't arguing or fighting." Could all of it have been lies? On top of that, the principal's words, that photo, and Sean's behavior at school today. All the fragments pieced together into an answer she least wanted to believe. Sean was still desperately explaining. "It's all fake. All lies. It's nothing like what you're thinking." A heavy slap landed squarely on Sean's face. Watching the scene, Marie's lips curved into a satisfied smile. Everything she had done was to force Sean back to Dead Mansion, to make this mother abandon him with her own mouth and cut off any possibility of family. Tears in her eyes, Hyunho's mom shouted in anger. "Don't call me mom ever again. From now on, there's nothing between us. Don't ever come to my house again. You should go back where you belong." Behind them came the crisp sound of high heels. The final piece of the plan's puzzle slowly came into view. It was Aunt Rachel, disguised as Park Si-yeon's mother. From this moment on, Park Si-yeon officially returned to Dead Mansion. He was no longer someone's child, but Sean, belonging only to Dead Mansion. The father's laughter came through the communicator. "Well done, Marie. My dear child, this is all thanks to you. You're Dead Mansion's finest strategist." Marie replied respectfully, "You flatter me, father. I only carried out your will." The father nodded in satisfaction. The legend of Dead Mansion, Sean, is finally coming back. Marie, you should come back soon as well. Yes, I understand. In the end, Sean still returned to Dead Mansion. Waiting for him was Rachel's gentle re-education. All kinds of bizarre foods were laid out in front of him. Sour, bitter, sweet, salty, spicy, everything was stuffed into his mouth all at once. Especially a huge bucket of fire chicken noodles, with 2 whole packets of sauce, so spicy his tongue went numb. All of this stemmed from the 3 great laws. The Sean of now had to absolutely obey every command from Dead Mansion. Just then, the sound of wheelchair wheels grinding on the floor came from behind him. The man was wrapped head to toe in bandages, his legs and cervical spine completely broken. He could only control an electric wheelchair with his right hand. He was none other than the one once beaten savagely by Sean, Kwon Byonyu. After being saved, he didn't immediately seek revenge. Instead, he chose to pour money into sponsoring Rachel, just so she would help him retrieve Sean. This luxury apartment was the base he'd built with his money. In order to reclaim this weapon, he was willing to pay any price. Rachel replied coolly, "Dead Mansion has already taken back ownership of Sean. As a return for your sponsorship, we won't lay a hand on your son." That was the agreed term, and you know it well. Kwon Byonyu, of course, respected the importance of their deal, but he was far from satisfied. His hatred was not aimed at just one child. The ones I want revenge on aren't just that brat, but also that old lady who runs the snack shop. As an instructor, Rachel had no feelings whatsoever toward ordinary people. Whether they live or die has nothing to do with me. I'm only responsible for bringing Sean back. Hearing this, Sean was completely stunned. Then what's going to happen to Hyun-ho's mom? Elsewhere, to make a living, Hyun-ho's mom was still busy at the snack shop. A foreigner with clumsy Korean came to the entrance, haltingly ordering a few portions of fried snacks to take out. She smiled and reassured him, "Just a moment, it'll be ready soon." Yet amid the sound of frying oil, her mind was elsewhere. Why would Sean do something like that? He seemed like such a good kid, and he got along so well with Hyun-ho. Why would he hurt my son that badly? Lost in thought, her knife slipped sideways and accidentally cut her own hand. The foreigner hurriedly leaned in to check on the wound with concern. As he drew close, true killing intent quietly encroached. He raised his blade, just about to strike, when the phone suddenly rang. It was the hospital. Hwang Hyun-ho has opened his eyes. Overjoyed, Hyun-ho's mom ignored the cut on her hand and rushed out in a panic. "Take as much as you want, I won't charge you." She didn't think twice and never realized what this person's real purpose was. At Sanrim Hospital at that moment, Hyun-ho had already opened his eyes, but after a long coma and such severe injuries, he was still dazed and groggy. The doctor kept calling his name loudly, over and over, trying to bring his consciousness back. Weakly, Hyun-ho responded, and fragments of memory slowly surfaced. He remembered how he had yelled at his mom, yet she never truly got angry at him and always took the blame onto herself. He recalled those calloused hands. They must have had it so hard. I have to apologize to her in person. At that thought, tears slid down on their own, and his throat tightened. "Mom, where are you?" Just then, footsteps sounded at the door of the ward. Clutching her still bleeding finger, Hyun-ho's mom pushed the door open, trembling. Hyun-ho grabbed her hand, his voice choked with emotion. "Mom, I'm sorry. You've worked so hard all this time." Outside the ward, the foreigner had followed them all the way to the hospital. He took out his phone and reported to Guan Bionu, "They're here. This is our chance to get them all at once." On the other end, Guan Bionu's voice carried a cold sneer. "There's been a change of plans. Stay put in the hospital and wait for my word." It turned out Guan Bionu had something else in mind. He had his men stall Rachel, then got into a truck early and left, abducting Sean once more. Bound hand and foot, Sean was unable to use force, since no order under the laws had been given. Guan Bionu's calculations were very clear. "I'm going to drag those two from the hospital here and kill them right in front of you. I want to see what you'll be able to do." He studied the weapon before him with great interest. "Without an order, you are this powerless, unable to do a thing. What an amusing creation. Isn't this just brainwashing? I suddenly had an idea. What if I buy you from Dead Mansion and then give you an order, go kill that old lady from the snack shop? That would be quite a spectacle." "Don't give me that, I'm going to eat you alive." "Look, without an order, you can't do anything. Besides, I'm just getting started. I'm going to tear that old lady and her son to pieces, together, right in front of you, bit by bit. All you'll be able to do is stand by and watch, without lifting a single finger. Didn't I say it before? Next time, I'll definitely kill them all. Don't worry, because after them, the next one will be you." Back at Sanrim Hospital, Hyun-ho's mom was peeling an apple. The moment Hyun-ho saw the wound on her hand, he asked worriedly about it. Like all parents, she brushed it off lightly. "It's nothing serious." But Hyun-ho still insisted on getting her some bandages. "The doctor said I can walk around a little." Since he was just too stubborn, Hyun-ho's mom had to give in. "Then I'll go down and get it myself. You stay here and don't wander around." When she stepped out of the ward, the hallway outside was completely dark, and the nurse's station was empty. At that moment, a shadow silently appeared behind her back, and a heavy elbow strike slammed into the nape of her neck. The one who struck was Guan Bionu's secretary. Looking down at the unconscious Hyun-ho's mom, he gave a vicious grin. "Looks like that brat really can't do anything at all." The door to the ward was suddenly thrown open, and more than a dozen men in suits entered, surrounding Guan Bionu as they came in. "I'm Joseph's father," he said coldly. "I'm very sorry for the terrible thing he did to you. It must have hurt a lot, didn't it? But I'm a man of efficiency. Even after going to all that trouble, you still survived. I can't believe I have to do the same thing a second time." On the rooftop of another building, Rachel was already in full gear, in position. Guan Bionu didn't want a head-on clash with Rachel, and ordered his men, "Get them in the truck. The rest of you, just hold her off." But Rachel had no intention of letting them go easily. Even with her arm injured, she still forced herself to fight on. The secretary stood at the end of the corridor and snapped his fingers, and a pack of burly men surged forward with weapons in hand. Rachel sneered. In that case, there's no need to hold back anymore. The twin machine guns roared in her hands. She alone held the pass, blocking an army. The secretary actually burst out laughing. His arm, which was supposedly in a cast, was actually hiding a handgun. The last shot was at your leg. Next time, I'll be aiming at your head. Right then, Sean suddenly broke free of his restraints and slipped out of the ropes. The stunned secretary froze. How is that possible? Sean spoke unhurriedly. Did you forget? I'm a member of Dead Mansion now. What did you just say? You'd aim at her head, you'd kill a Dead Mansion instructor. That's the third law. Anyone who targets Dead Mansion is treated as a threat. I act in response to threats and deal with everything that follows. Specially raised composite weapon, The Legend of Dead Mansion, codename Sean. Current allegiance, Dead Mansion. The burly men around him still treated him like a kid and didn't take him seriously. In the next second, Sean seized one man's wrist and threw a single punch, knocking out all his teeth in one blow. The man reeled in shock. Where did this little brat get that kind of freaky strength? Sean's fists thudded into flesh again and again, not easing up in the slightest even when the man begged for mercy. On the other side, Rachel kept firing as she thought, the Sean right now has no parents giving him orders, and no one he needs to protect. What is he fighting for? Could it be, just for me? The enemies were many, and heavily armed, but Sean adapted even faster. He noticed a full tray of syringes and instantly dove toward it. The enemy thought he was trying to escape, but the next second, syringes came whistling through the air. Someone failed to dodge in time and had an eye pierced straight through. Sean ripped all the safety caps off the needles in one go. All right, everyone, time for your shots. Everyone was stunned by his ruthlessness. He's just a kid in his teens. How could he have the strength to take on adults like this? At that moment, a man lugging a chainsaw burst in. Out of the way, let me handle this. Brat, I'll split you in half with one swing. Sean blinked. And now a chainsaw psycho pops up out of nowhere. What is this? As he rounded a corner, he spotted a hospital bed and kicked it straight toward the man. The chainsaw guy was shoved backward, nearly bisecting Sean by accident. A sudden idea struck Sean. He strapped the chainsaw man to the bed, tying down both his hands and the chainsaw. You like playing with chainsaw so much? Come on then, everyone, let's all play together. Chainsaw chariot, move out. The chainsaw roared at high speed, heating up and smoking, and the man's hands were burned bright red. Sean raised a syringe, his voice turning cold. Where did you take Wong Hyeon-ho's mom? At that moment, Rachel arrived at the scene as well. Looks like you're finished over here too. Sean dropped the syringe, his brows tightly furrowed. Most of the ones who ran were scared off. But that Guan Bionu took Auntie Hyeon-ho away. We have to go after them right now. Rachel frowned. We're not fighting for her. The one they kidnapped is you. You're Dead Mansion's property, and I only came here to rescue you. You're part of the organization, and you just used your power to protect me. Now that you're safe and the enemy is basically cleared out, the mission is over. It's time to go back. Sean picked up a roll of bandages and said softly, you've got it wrong. The reason I fought was because of you. Just like you said, I used my abilities to protect you, not anybody else. They broke our discipline. I can't just let them walk away. We can't allow this kind of risk to exist. We have to wipe them out and make them understand what happens when you mess with Dead Mansion. Anyway, we're going together. Rachel couldn't keep from blushing, her voice softening. My dear Sean really is the best. You'd go this far for me. A shadowy smile flickered across Sean's face. It seemed the flattering words had done their job. With that, he could naturally go and rescue that mother and son. The sound of machine guns being loaded rang out crisply. Then let's go together and crush them all. Meanwhile, in a certain abandoned classroom, Hyeon-ho's mom woke up from her faint. Right in front of her was Guan Bion-u's sinister face. Calm down, he said in a low voice. I know this is very rude, but this is the only way. Look around, this is your child's classroom. I heard the seat you're in now belongs to Wong Hyeon-ho. All these scratches and stains on the desk look terrifying, don't they? I was shocked too. He slowly raised his head. Maybe you can't recognize me like this. How about now? I'm Joseph's father. My face is scary, isn't it? All of this is because of that guy, Park Se-yeon, also known as Sean. My son and I are both victims. He did this to us, and then pinned what happened to Wong Hyeon-ho on Joseph. It's already spread through the school. All the students know. We adults haven't paid enough attention to the kids. That's our sin. I will have my revenge. I failed to protect my son, so I have to atone for him. I once believed the law would give me justice, but the school and the police did nothing. Your son jumped from that window. If we just let them go now, the bullying will never end. We have to stand up and stop all of this. Do you understand, Hyunho's mom? It's time for us to take revenge. We can't let him go. At the same time, at the Dead Mansion estate, a man in black reported to the father. Confirmed. Sean was abducted by people from Gwanbyo New Construction Group. The father flew into a rage. An organization with no foundation in Korea dares lay hands on Sean while knowing nothing. Not long after, at Yonhan Middle School, Sean, Rachel, Marie, and Eugene had gathered. The father's order came through their earpieces. Anyone who dares touch Dead Mansion's property will pay the price. Sean, this is your first Death Squad mission. Go all out and show your abilities as you please. No need to hold back. Rachel, eradicating heresy is your top priority. Act without restraint. I'll have White Tiger Human Resources cover every trace. Sean suddenly raised his hand. I think I left my in-ear receiver back at the hospital. Do we have a spare? Marie, can I borrow one? Marie rolled her eyes helplessly. You're unbelievably careless, like some dumb kid. Hard to believe someone like you became a legend. You don't act like a professional at all. It's disappointing. After getting thoroughly mocked, Sean could only keep playing dumb. Is this really the place? It just looks like my school. Marie said that, based on traffic camera tracking in the area, they could confirm the targets were inside this building. Watching how excited Sean was, Rachel felt a vague uneasiness. Our mission is to annihilate the enemy. You're not planning to do anything stupid, are you? Sean flexed his wrists and said quietly, I know. No matter how this ends, I only have one job, to destroy them all. They didn't realize that every move they made was being recorded by surveillance. Meanwhile, in another dim room, a few strangers watched the footage on their screens and whispered to each other. When I first heard the job, I thought there's no way they seriously meant it. The target is Dead Mansion? That woman is the trainer Rachel. This gig isn't easy unless there's extra pay. What do you think? Those kids, are they killers? No, they're mercenaries like us. Don't underestimate them. Kids who come out of Dead Mansion are not to be taken lightly. The door opened, and Gwanbyo rolled in on his wheelchair. I'll pay the extra. If you kill every last one of them, money is no object. But didn't you say there were 3 of you? Why are there only 2? My little brother will be here later. But even if he doesn't come, the 2 of us are enough. Don't look down on us just because they aren't ordinary kids. In your eyes, we're not qualified to deal with a couple of brats. The long-haired boy tried to smooth things over. Medvedev, don't act so vicious. You're scaring him. Sorry, we don't take jobs against clients. He might look laid back, but he really is a pro. Inside Yonha Middle School, Sean and the others went up the stairs, searching for the mother and son. It's way too quiet in the school. I just hacked the network. Every camera is down. Eugene suggested, let's split up and search. Even if we run into enemies, they're just amateurs. They won't be much of a threat. Rachel nodded. Then we'll spread out. Use the radios if anything happens. But they quickly realized, one of them didn't have a radio at all. In the end, Sean had to go with Rachel as a team, while Marie and Eugene headed to the security room to check the CCTV in each floor. As he walked, Sean flexed his fingers. Come on, you bastards, hurry up and show yourselves. I want to see who's got the guts. Rachel turned her head, her gaze sharp. You still haven't given up on that mother and son? Why do you care about them so much? Give it up. The more you care, the more danger they're in. Think about it, they were just ordinary people, living simple, happy lives. In only a few days, they became Dead Mansion's targets and then got kidnapped by that pack of idiots. Why did all of this happen? The answer is simple. Without you, their lives wouldn't have fallen apart. Dead Mansion's shadow followed you into their world. So, all these tragedies are because of you. Don't you get it yet? Sean felt a chill creep over his whole body, as if he were realizing for the first time what he carried on his back. He had never considered that the fact of being a Dead Mansion person would drag other people into the abyss. Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down his spine. A bullet sliced past his face. Rachel looked up and saw the figure opposite them. Medvedev, the number 2 man among the Russian mercenaries. The man grinned. Been 2 years since Vladivostok. Have you been, Rachel? This kid's name is Marie, right? I saw her wandering around the building alone, so I decided to have a little fun. Didn't expect her to be so fragile. Don't look at me like that. The target this time is Dead Mansion. No matter how much I like you, a job's a job. Even you can't stand in the way. Don't point that gun at me. Calm down. We're both professionals, right? If you'd go on a date with me, I might just drop this job and leave those kids alone. Rachel, blazing with fury, whipped a machine gun from her waist. When the smoke cleared, Medvedev was already gone. Hiding around the corner, he muttered under his breath, what a hot-tempered woman, but that's exactly my type. Killing you would be a waste. Maybe if I put a few bullets in you, you'll learn to behave. With his back against the wall, Sean spoke quietly. With your level of skill, you could have taken her down. But you shouldn't have said that. Threatening a dead mansion instructor is the biggest mistake of your life. Medvedev burst out laughing. Not bad, kid. You're different from that girl, huh? I'm getting more and more excited. Don't you dare quit halfway. The Russian mercenary group had a brutal initiation ritual. New recruits had to strip to the waist, step into the Siberian deep freeze, and hunt bare-handed, only earning the right to join if they brought back live prey. According to legend, there was once a man who killed a Siberian brown bear with his bare hands, and thus became the organization's second in command. That man was Medvedev, a madman who loved fighting down to his bones. When Sean punched him and made his nose bleed, he didn't back off at all. Instead, he trembled with excitement. This brat's got some skill. Still a bit worse than a brown bear, though. In the next moment, he suddenly realized the magazine on his gun had somehow been removed. Turned out that with that same punch, Sean had casually popped the magazine off. Instead of being alarmed, Medvedev only laughed harder. Interesting. Sean wiped the blood from his face. Judging from our builds, the difference between us is huge. And he's got a weapon. He's definitely a tough one to handle right now. Suddenly, a gunshot rang out. From a distance, Rachel shot Medvedev's handgun, shattering it entirely. But with a massive frame and agile movements, he was hard to suppress even for a sharpshooter like Rachel. At that moment, Guanbayon US lackeys rushed in as well, making the situation on site even more chaotic. Rachel ducked into a room and found Marie passed out on the floor, who had now woken and was kneeling, shaking. Her voice trembled. I checked the earlier footage. There's more than one of them. There's another partner on Eugene's side. This place is sealed tight, and with Medvedev here, there's no way to break through and save Eugene. Sean stood up. You and Rachel go find Eugene. If another one like Medvedev shows up, he'll die. And this big guy, just leave him to me. I'll make him pay for that punch just now. Rachel's frown deepened. Medvedev is not a man you can underestimate. But Sean's tone was firm. I'll stay and take him on. Don't forget, I'm the legend of Dead Mansion. Rachel looked at his back, then finally nodded, covering Marie as they fought their way back. Sean was dazed by that punch. He had clearly blocked the blow, yet his arm was bleeding again and again. When he turned to look, he saw that Medvedev was holding the previously disassembled gun, and was using the sharp muzzle to stab into Sean's arm. In a fight to the death, there's no such thing as too dirty. As long as you win, no matter how filthy it looks, so what? Frowning, Sean felt around the desk and grabbed 2 metal pens. Since you're playing dirty, don't blame me for doing the same. Medvedev couldn't help but laugh. Not bad, kid. You've got guts. Since you're offering yourself up, I'll oblige you. He sped up and drove a heavy punch into Sean's body. Medvedev glanced at the 2 pens now stuck in his own arm. The brat really holds a grudge. But don't think that just because I let my guard down for a second, you suddenly have what it takes to fight me. Gasping for breath, Sean thought, this guy's power really is something else. And he's gotten even faster. He stripped off his school uniform jacket and flung it at Medvedev, using the brief moment with his vision blocked to retreat into the principal's office. Medvedev really was just like Aunt Rachel had said, far from an ordinary man. Sean's left arm throbbed nonstop, blood pouring out. He had to find a way to stop the bleeding first. In the mirror, he saw his own face, pale and unfamiliar. Rachel's words still seemed to echo in his ears. They only got dragged into this because of you. Everything that's happened is your fault. Sean clenched his fists, his eyes starting to go hollow. The door was kicked open with a crash. Medvedev walked in and sensed a subtle change. Looks like Rachel was right. Without you, someone like me wouldn't have come here at all. The Huang Haiyanho family wouldn't be in danger either. All of this is because of you. Since that's the case, I'll be the one to end it. That's the only way to be worthy of the tattoo on my back. Medvedev had noticed the difference in him as well. You said your name is Sean? I think I've heard it before. 2 years ago, I remember Rachel mentioning you. She said you were the legend of Dead Mansion. I didn't believe her then. Now I do. He thought back to that mission in Vladivostok 2 years earlier. The pay they were offered was absurdly high, and the people they were supposed to pick up turned out to be a truckload of children. Rachel repeatedly emphasized, they're not ordinary kids. They're Dead Mansion's good children, exceptionally fine works. He urged the kids, get in the truck, the building's about to blow. Medvedev looked baffled. What do you mean, about to? Before he could finish, the entire building behind them exploded with a roar. Are you insane? You wired the whole building with explosives. Rachel shrugged. I'm just a disciplined instructor. Those were all the kids' work. Looks like this field exercise paid off nicely. But David, you used too many grenades. Watch it next time. And you need to develop the habit of maintaining your firearms. That's a professional virtue. Amy, calm down when you're acting. Your performance is still really awkward. Tom, you think you're sneaky and quiet, but I can hear every one of your footsteps. Eddie, who told you to pick up candy in the conference room? If you leave something behind that shouldn't be there, can you handle the consequences? Medvedev had laughed so hard on the spot he could barely stand. You say it like those brats really did blow up an entire building. Rachel's face turned cold. They're not ordinary kids. They're Dead Mansion's good children. And you, hold the cigarette. There are children in the truck. It's bad for their health. You're the number 2 of a mercenary group, and you still have no idea what Dead Mansion really is. In that moment, he had also noticed the scar on her forehead. Such a pretty face. How'd you get that scar? Don't tell me those brats did it? Rachel touched the scar and stayed silent for a long time before speaking. I got this disciplining Sean. The Legend of Dead Mansion, the most perfect masterpiece to date. Strictly speaking, he has another name, Masterpiece, an outstanding genius. But now, we've lost him. We don't even know if he's still alive. If you ever see him, let me know. There's a tattoo on his back, Origin number 1. Looks like you really did find him again. Medvedev stared at the boy in front of him. You really aren't just any ordinary kid. From now on, handle our problem like a man. A heavy blow cracked Sean's ribs on the spot. Medvedev had no intention of giving Sean a chance to breathe and charged in with a blade raised. Even after I smashed my head into his jaw, he's still acting like nothing happened. This guy's physical toughness is practically inhuman. Medvedev was completely dumbstruck. This guy was actually using the metals themselves as weapons. Sean clenched his right hand. Think of this as a souvenir from your trip to Korea. You're strong, that's true, but I won't go easy on you just because of that. After finishing off Medvedev, Sean turned to go find Rachel. But then he noticed a familiar photo on the principal's desk. As he picked it up to look, Medvedev had already crept up behind him and was swinging a golf club down at his head. Sean was stunned. By all logic, that's where the main artery is. How is he still moving? After several fierce exchanges, Medvedev finally collapsed and stopped breathing. Sean wiped the blood from his face, then looked back at the photo on the desk, his frown deepening. What on earth is going on? Elsewhere, Eugene walked over to the edge of a swimming pool. The long-haired boy appeared at his side without a sound. Startled, Eugene stumbled back again and again. To get this close without a sound, this guy won't be easy to deal with. Eugene hurriedly tried to call Rachel over the radio, only to find the channel jammed. He had no choice but to switch expressions in an instant, bursting into tears and acting like a useless brat in hopes of earning the other's sympathy. Instead, a baseball bat came smashing straight toward his head and face. The man didn't hesitate for even half a second, and didn't pull his blows at all. You're crying already when I haven't even done anything? Ridiculous. With acting that lousy, so stupid it makes me want to see how many swings it takes to beat you until you're really crying. Eugene's whole head was ringing. This level of destructive power is on a completely different scale. The man had no intention of stopping, and kept swinging the baseball bat at Eugene. But that earlier strike had already damaged Eugene's bones, leaving him unable to support his own weight as he collapsed. Eugene seized the chance to roll over the railing, and accidentally tumbled down the stairs. From above, the man looked down on him. I'll give you 10 seconds. Run as far as you can, so I can at least feel like I'm hunting something. Without a second's hesitation, Eugene staggered away for his life. He knew full well this was not someone he could handle easily, but the injury to his leg severely slowed him down. His pursuer closed in on him step by step. Although he used his blade to block the direct impact of the bat, the sheer force still sent waves of pain shooting through Eugene's arm. Amid the agony, Sean's words flashed through Eugene's mind. Before the mission, Sean had ruthlessly mocked him. But he couldn't understand. Why? That aunt treated you like that. She publicly denied you were family. So why are you still going to save her? She even told me that even though I hadn't proven I was indispensable in any way, she still called me family. It's really confusing. Does that mean all the education I've received since I was little means something different in her eyes? Sean hadn't known how to explain it to Eugene, so he'd knelt down and asked him, "What do you think yourself?" Eugene thought back on everything that had happened, but he couldn't figure out why at all. The family she talked about was completely different from anything he'd ever known. At the time, Sean had only ruffled his hair. She told me to bring you back next time so she could cook something good for you. When that happens, you can just ask her yourself what family really is, right? In the water, Eugene clenched his teeth in silence. What exactly is family? On the poolside, the man snorted dismissively. The kid really can't swim? Then let him be. It's not like he's getting back to shore anyway. He turned to leave, but in the next second, someone grabbed his ankle hard. Underwater, Eugene kicked off and flipped his body smoothly, dragging the man into the pool with him. From behind, he locked his arms around the man's neck, applying a rear naked choke in a cross hold. Even so, I'm going to prove I'm not useless. A capable kid will be welcomed wherever he goes. As the choking pressure mounted, the man thrashed wildly, swinging the baseball bat upward. The brutal hit landed squarely on Eugene's elbow. The sharp pain forced him to loosen his choke. You little punk actually made a fool out of me. I'm going to smash your bones one by one. Because they were in the water, his speed was greatly reduced. But then he suddenly stepped onto the lane float. It was a line of plastic buoys strung together. He darted nimbly along them, nearly as fast as if he were on land. Glancing back, he saw he'd reached another string of floats. In this situation, he couldn't properly break the surface at all, but there was no way Eugene could stay underwater forever. Red-faced from lack of air, Eugene swam quickly in another direction. However, on the floats, the man could move almost as freely as on solid ground. Underwater, Eugene was exhausted and suffocating. If this keeps up, I'll either drown or get beaten to death once I go up. The moment I stick my head out to breathe, that bat, with that kind of force, will smash my skull open. Suddenly he noticed that each line of floats was connected by a rope down the middle. An idea came to him. He dove to the bottom of the pool, picked up the short knife that had fallen earlier, and sliced through the rope in one cut. With the connection severed, the float scattered, and the man could no longer stand steadily. This brat has some tricks. In a fury, the man swung the bat underwater, but found the water's resistance made the weapon feel as heavy as a mountain. The short knife, by contrast, was far more dangerous. To avoid the blade, he was forced to dive deeper. But Eugene had been waiting for that, gripping the float rope in his hand. The instant the man came close, he looped it from behind around his neck. The rope tightened harder and harder around his windpipe. In the end, the man stopped breathing and sank to the bottom of the pool. He had underestimated how small this kid was, and paid the price. Elsewhere, Rachel was fighting and retreating while shielding the injured Marie. The wound in her thigh kept her from fully shaking off their pursuers. Marie said anxiously, "Things have escalated way beyond expectations. Shouldn't we pull back first?" Rachel stayed calm. "Once we accept an order from the father, we carry it through to the end. Our mission is annihilation. Sean's handling Medvedev, our job is to stay alive. But there's only one magazine left. We need to seriously think about how to fight from here." Marie glanced down at her phone. "Medvedev and Yuri are both outside our control. We need to see if we can call in anyone else for support." Rachel suddenly chambered around. "Didn't you say earlier you couldn't see who that person was? So how are you so sure the other one is Yuri?" Marie froze for a second, then let out a soft laugh. "Looks like I was too careless and you caught on." Rachel immediately aimed at her forehead. "Impossible. You should still be under Dead Mansion's control. How could you betray the organization? Answer me, Marie. That's an order." Fingering the necklace at her chest, Marie spoke softly. "Aunt Rachel, we've already found something that can break Dead Mansion's 3 great laws. The one who can turn the impossible into possible has returned." Rachel's pupils contracted. "What are you talking about?" Before she could finish, Marie dived in and stripped the magazine from her gun. At the same time, a cold gun barrel pressed against the back of Rachel's head. The moment she tried to resist, Rachel was shoved face down onto the floor. Marie switched back to that obedient, innocent expression. "Sorry to keep you waiting. Things are taken care of on this end. Next, our only job is to go and capture Sean."